Here's a look at just how good Inter Miami have been since Lionel Messi has joined the party. They won that 2023 Leagues Cup title and reached the U.S. Open Cup final that same year. Last season, they won the 2024 Supporter Shield before getting bounced in the playoffs in the first round of the MLS Cup playoffs. And then right now, they are currently sitting 5th in the Eastern Conference, but have had a lot of games to play.
Aly, I think it was just the realization that the year before, he just won a World Cup and scored a brace in the final. So it was a realization of that's the player that is currently playing in Major League Soccer. The undisputed GOAT.
The GOAT, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, the expectation was so high. I mean, this is who many would regard to be one of the greatest players of all time. But would each of you say that Lionel Messi has either met or exceeded your expectations since he's joined? Like, what did you expect, and has it been even better? Because it's been better in what I thought it was going to be.
I would say he has met my expectations because we're talking about Lionel Messi. So his expectations are through the roof. Has he exceeded them? I don't think he's exceeded my expectations. I think what has been a disappointment is how Inter Miami has actually been managed. So, you know, think about the back line. It's been dreadful in a lot of cases because they've been so top heavy. You talk about Luis Suarez and Messi and then Busquets and Alba, but I don't think they've necessarily done a good job of filling the pieces in around them in terms of pace and quickness. Undersized defenders, you just see some of their vulnerabilities come to life in a lot of these MLS matches where we saw early on they had to win games 4-3, 5-4, 3-2. You would just like to see the consistency along the back line.
Yeah, but that's more of a Miami problem, not a Lionel Messi problem. Tone, how have you seen his time in
I
MLS?
think Messi has been a success, right? If you watch what happens around the league when he travels to away stadiums and how fans are still coming out to see him, you talk about him playing. I mean, there's nothing else he can really do. We're coming off a stretch prior to the All-Star game. I think it was 6 games with multiple goals out of 7.
Yeah.
Right? So you really can't ask him to do much more.
Nope.
But like Charlie's talking about, this is an unbalanced team, right? This is very top-heavy. This is very attack-minded. And what they saw last year against the New York Red Bulls is that you can't be that way in the playoffs all the time because you're going to get bounced at some point, and that's what happened. So that I think, is the biggest fear for Inter Miami fans is, how do we get over that? Can we just do it in the attack? I still live by the creed that defense wins championships. In the end, I always have, I always will. I
wonder why.
Yeah, but I watch other leagues. It's the same thing, right, guys? You look at the top of the tables. Teams with the best defense are normally sitting at the top of the table somewhere. So that's a challenge for them. I think the 5th place standing is a little deceiving. You mentioned it. They still have 3 games in hand, right? Which they can actually go to 1st place in the conference. So don't get misled by that part of it. But yeah, this is an unbalanced team, is what I would call them.
So, yeah, spoken like a true goalkeeper. You're right, Chuck, of course. Defense wins championships.
Well, he is the only goalkeeper in Major League Soccer history to win a league MVP.
Yeah, because he's an absolute legend. That's our guy, Tony Meola. But, Chuck, I'm curious what you think on this for Inter Miami, what they learned last season going into this year, because you don't bring in a guy like Lionel Messi and all of his star-studded friends to not come away with a ton of hardware, and MLS Cup is the one that Miami are buying after next.
Well, you saw they won a trophy right when he touched down. Incredible. But the ultimate goal is to win MLS Cup. And last season, they won the Supporter Shield, but I think they lost steam. It was a clear indication for me that Inter Miami understands what's in front of them. And that was Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba saying, All-Star game, it's great. I'm honored, but no thanks. I need to take my rest. They understand that they lost steam at the end of last season. So now, when they can take breaks, take those breaks because you need that energy for the run, not only into the playoffs, but throughout the playoffs. And I think they understand that's the goal for them this year.
Okay, we've been playing a lot of fun little over-under games this week, so I've got one for you guys on Lionel Messi and Leagues Cup. Over-under 6 goals in the 3 Leagues Cup Phase 1 games for Lionel Messi.
I'm going to go over because he might get 4 or 5 on Pumas alone.
6 and 3. That means he has to keep the pace up. I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to go under.
Don't doubt the man.
Yeah,
don't doubt him.
I think he'll spread it around a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
How far do you see Miami going, by the way? Do you think that this is, or are they going to put their emphasis on MLS compared to Leagues Cup?
We're talking about Lionel Messi.
That's true.
Lionel Messi doesn't settle for anything but trophies. So if he's playing, he's trying to win a trophy, and that means everybody in the locker room is trying to do that.
Okay, let's bring in our good friend Felipe Cardenas, who is always dialed into all things Inter Miami and Major League Soccer. Felipe, what's up? So good to see you. Lionel Messi, there was all that drama with skipping out on All-Star, and now he and Miami can kind of pay more attention to things that are a little bit more important, winning trophies this season, but also what's fast approaching in December 2025, and that is a contract coming up for Lionel Messi. So what can you tell us about Messi's current contract and what we expect going forward?
Well, first of all, I'm rattled that Charlie thinks Messi's going to put 4 past Keylor Navas. I mean, are you kidding? It's Keylor. It's Keylor Navas. So that's going to be a big challenge for him. But he still hasn't signed. The latest reports are that it is obviously trending in the right direction. When I spoke to Lionel Messi's camp a couple of weeks ago, it was very positive, but nothing definitive. And I think the one thing that has changed since then is that Rodrigo De Paul, his very good friend, his close teammate with Argentina with the national team, has signed for Inter Miami. I think that is a clear indication that Lionel Messi is going to sign an extension with Inter Miami. I think we don't know how long. Is it another year? Is it 2 years? Is it potentially through 28? I think they're going to announce it when they do. It'll say a multi-year contract, and we'll have to see where that option year is. But right now it looks like this is going to happen. Inter Miami is going to have their dream unveiling of a new stadium with their captain Lionel Messi. And for now, yeah, like you said, they've gone past the drama of the All-Star game, and now they're facing a Leagues Cup where the question is, how interested are they, considering the MLS Cup is the ultimate goal?
Felipe, I think you forgot something. We're talking about Leo Messi. Who hasn't he scored 3 or 4 goals on in world football?
I mean, there's plenty of goalkeepers, but I'm talking about Keylor Navas, the GOAT in this region. And they have a history. Remember, they have a history going back to the Clásicos with Real Madrid and Barcelona. Obviously, who's gotten the better of that rivalry? It was Leo Messi when he's playing with the star-studded side. So, again, you guys have mentioned it. The playing field is a lot more even now with these two big stars facing each other in a Leagues Cup with the talent that is around them. So we'll see. We'll see, Charlie.
Felipe, I want to go back to Rodrigo De Paul just for a second, right? Clearly Messi's friend, his bodyguard on the field. I don't think that Leo has him come here if he doesn't sign. But we're looking at it as a name. Doesn't this address a real need as well for Inter Miami in the middle of the field that everyone seems to be running through when they pick up the speed of the game? And that's been sort of an Achilles heel for Inter Miami.
It is. And I think the big question is what role does Rodrigo De Paul play in this midfield? At 31 years old and obviously a 2-time Copa America winner and did everything, was a huge part of that World Cup run in 2022. But I think the one thing that people forget is Rodrigo De Paul's genesis as a player. Started as a number 10. And I think this is a team in Inter Miami that, yes, they need defensive cover in front of the back line, but they also could use another player that is on the ball and that can progress, can find and really link up with Messi in the final third. If you pull Messi back and turn him into a quarterback, you're missing a lot of chances up front. So I think you're going to see him really close to Messi. Yes, he'll have a defensive role. The one thing that Javier Machadano has done, which is a little bit different from Tata Martino, I think he has pulled the parking brake a little bit on this team. You guys mentioned it. It is a team that concedes goals. It's not, even though they've invested a little bit in that back line, still the liability is defensively. And so it's interesting when your owner says we want to play all out attack, anyone that comes to coach this team has to play that way. That is the expectation. So De Paul, I think, is going to have dual roles. I don't know if he can be box to box 90 minutes.
He might have 4 roles like MLS. by the looks of it, because they're going to need him to be a center back as well as a 6 and an 8 and a 10.
Okay, so Rodrigo De Paul is our, Zillow new home search feature because he's going to have to find the right home on the field, of course. Like, that's going to be important to put him in the best position to help this Miami team. But Felipe, when's he moving in? When are we expecting to see Rodrigo De Paul actually make his first appearance with Inter Miami?
Well, it could be tonight. You know, when I spoke to people at the club yesterday, they're still awaiting his visa, so that has not come through yet. It's possible that it happens today, and I think if that does happen before they face Atlas at Chase Stadium, you're going to see Rodrigo De Paul in that starting 11. I think that is the expectation. He's been training away from the team, has not been able to train with the team, obviously. And yesterday, Javier Machado telling the press, you know, if we have him ready to go, you know, obviously he's going to play. So it is a possibility. If that doesn't happen tonight, then the most likely outcome is going to be the next game in Leagues Cup. So interesting. You know, I think we know what happens in these instances when the visas aren't coming through, but I think there's a little bit of confidence that it could happen tonight.
Felipe, the MLS roster mechanisms can be confusing, I'd say, for even the most dialed-in fans. And for those wondering how Miami keep adding these mega stars to their roster, can you provide some context on how this deal is going to work on the financial side?
Yeah, I think there's still a lot to take apart here. I think it's a big onion that needs to be pulled, that needs to be peeled. Like, how did Rodrigo De Paul come in? You know, we know what the official reports are. He's going to be on loan until January, and so Atletico Madrid eating a chunk of his salary. And then so he comes in as a TAM player, and then next season he's going to be a DP. That means another DP, most likely Sergio Busquets, is going to have to either move on or take a huge cut and be a TAM player as well. You know, there are things about the MLS roster rules that if you asked me to explain them, I wouldn't feel confident doing that. But I think what happens with Miami is a microcosm of what's happening in the league. You know, yesterday Gonzalo Pineda, the Atlas coach, who will face Inter Miami, who has a history of facing Inter Miami when he was with Atlanta United, you know, referred to Inter Miami as a team with 5 designated players, and it was a bit of a jab at both Inter Miami, the league, a league that he's familiar with, and also I think he was essentially saying this is a team with 5 very good players in Suarez, Busquets, Alba, De Paul, and now Messi. And so I know that it looks like this is something that only Miami can do, but this is what the league puts you in. This is the situation that MLS puts you in. And for now, it's been done. It's been done. We'll see how it plays out when he actually signs and what 2026 looks like.
Okay, going to put you on the spot here, Felipe, to wrap things up. Inter Miami are up for 3 different trophies potentially this season. How many do they win?
I think one. You know, there's a possibility that Supporters Shield and MLS Cup could still happen. Tony mentioned it. They have 3 games in hand. They can move up the table. They have momentum in the league, and so those are the 2 that I think could potentially, you know, join the trophy case in Miami. I think Leagues Cup is going to be interesting. You know, Javier Machado was saying we hope that Lionel Messi is ultra motivated to play. We'll see. You know, how if they take this as an opportunity to rest players and see how that goes. But I think MLS Cup is right there for them. It is. You know, Charlie mentioned it. They know that is the goal. That is the only trophy that matters in this league, and I think they'll go for it. I think obviously they can still do it, and so I think I'll look at MLS Cup as the one trophy that I think they can win.
You boys feeling more confident after last night that Liga MX's team will win Leagues Cup for the first time? Too soon to tell.
No, I'm not. I think it's still way too early in the competition. Some teams are still resting guys. Some guys need a break. So for me, the first round of games is not a clear indication of Liga MX beating MLS in this competition.